Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I am Sam Oches, and I'm really excited to be launching this show where I'll be giving you an all-access pass to the restaurant industry's most influential decision makers, from the CEOs of the largest restaurant companies in the world to the founders of emerging brands that are really rethinking what a restaurant company can look like. On today's inaugural episode, I'm talking with Zach McLeroy. He is the CEO and founder of Zaxby's, the chicken fast casual that was born in Athens, Georgia, and which has grown to more than 900 locations, doing roughly $2 billion in annual sales. Before I jump into that conversation, though, with Zach, just a few reminders on where you can get even more information and insights on restaurant industry success. For starters, don't forget to subscribe to Nation's Restaurant News' other podcast, Extra Serving, where we are opening our reporter's notebook and sharing interviews with food service leaders from all walks, and where our editors are coming together to share their thoughts and their expertise on some of the hot button issues of the week. Of course, you can also visit nrn.com for our complete content, which includes news, insights, research, and so much more. Finally, I really wanted to let you know about a very exciting event coming up in Denver in October. That's right, it is an in-person event, which is something that I have not attended in 18 months. From October 4th through 6th, Nation's Restaurant News is hosting Create, the Future of Food Service in downtown Denver, bringing together some of the most interesting and innovative minds in the restaurant space to share their perspectives on what a post-pandemic restaurant industry can look like. We have an incredible slate of speakers, and I don't know about you, but I am eager to get out into the industry again, to be a community again, and to be together again. I highly encourage you to join us there. Visit informaconnect.com/create for more information and to register. That's informaconnect.com/create. Okay, it is finally time, my inaugural takeaway conversation with Zach McLeroy, the founder and CEO of Zaxby's. Don't forget to stick around after the interview, as I will be sharing my 5 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. While we're waiting, Zach, I have a really important question for you. Because I've never had a chance to ask you this. You sold your drum kit to start Zaxby's, and
I sure did.
I'm a fellow drummer.
Are you? Okay.
And now you sold your
I
drum
was
set
two
for
ones.
8,000. Yeah, oh, here we go. A lineup of drummers.
Yeah.
I want to know, you got $8,000 for that drum kit. What was that drum kit? Because that is a lot of money for a drum kit. You got to explain the setup to me.
Well, I had a Rogers set, which are rare sets, but back then they weren't that rare. Today they are. It was a double bass set, and I had I had 6 toms, 2 snares, and I think in total I had like 8 or 10 zildjian cymbals. And
so you were an aspiring Neil Peart, in other words.
Yes, I was. so aspiring, exactly, aspiring.
That would have been a lot of fun to play.
And this kid that my brother knew, he had really admired my set, and he said, "What do you want for it?" And I just said $8,000. He said, "I'll take it." So that kind of happened very quickly, and that's how I had my seed money for Zaxby's.
That's incredible. Yeah, because I bought my kit going on maybe 13, 14 years ago, and it was $2,000, and I thought that was like pretty expensive for one. But man, I saw that you sold it for $8,000 in 1990, and I'm like, oh man, that must have been a sweet kit.
Yeah, and I went on a search to find it, and I can't find the set. It's been disposed of, I guess, somewhere along the way. So,
oh, that would be a lot of fun if that came back into your life.
It would be.
All right, Zach, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. I know that Zaxby's has an incredible year ahead of it. I feel like you guys really weathered the last year and a half so much better than so many other companies. Of course, we've been through quite the volatile year with the COVID-19 pandemic. We've spent a lot of time, I'm sure you have as much as I have, talking about what the pandemic looked like, how you got through it. I really want to focus on what's going on in the future for Zaxby's, but we obviously have to start with just big picture, broadly speaking. what was the pandemic like for Zaxby's? How did you guys get through this crazy last year plus?
Well, the pandemic for us was like it was for everyone else. Instilled a lot of fear and anxiety, and our sales started to drop like everyone else's. And for about 4.5, 5 solid weeks, our sales dropped week over week. And you can imagine the panic that sent through the entire organization. Our licensees were calling us just asking, what do we do? How are we going to get through this? How are we going to survive it? And unfortunately, we hit a bottom after about 5 weeks. But during that same period of time, it really forced a lot of our licensees who were hands-on in the very beginning who've now become more absentee to get back into their stores. And they started working elbow to elbow with their team members. And I think that it created an incredible morale boost for one. And it showed, hey, we're in this together. We're going to get through this together. And also, they got real creative. And I would say innovative. It says, I can't allow guests into my stores. What do I do to get more throughput? And we've been pushing this initiative for some time. We've got to get more throughput. We've got to be faster in the drive-through. We have to be more accurate. We need more throughput. And they said, okay, I'm going to get creative. I'm going to bring an extension cord in the parking lot and bring my cashier out there, my register out there, and I'm going to serve guests. So we just kind of figured it out on the fly. And it really showed the licensees that with a little bit of creativity and I guess a lot of passion and drive and teamwork, we can make it work. And it kind of caught fire and it kind of went across our brand and all the licensees were doing the same thing. So collectively together, we just kind of figured it out and made it happen.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, there were. I feel like I've defined this period so many times as really kind of forced innovation because it feels like so many companies. I mean, to your point, you got to get creative, you got to get innovative. You really have no choice in order to survive. I'm curious about coming out of this now on the other side of really the worst of the pandemic. Obviously, looking back on that period, what were some of those forced innovations that have lasting power and had the most impact to the Zaxby's business?
Well, I think it proved to a lot of licensees they can be faster in the drive-through, and it also proved the importance of accuracy behind the order and quality product and speed. So those three things are what came out of that. And we said, so now we're going to look back on this. We're going back. It's time to go back and perfect the systems we put in place, and that's what we're undergoing right now. We're really undergoing a digital transformation to help us have more seamless throughput in the drive-through and to increase our speed and accuracy for the consumers.
Now, obviously, I mean, Drivethru, I'm sure, helped a good amount in helping you guys through the worst of it. And then also there was this incredible demand for chicken that we saw I mean, before pandemic, of course, but really through the pandemic, the demand for chicken also, I'm sure, helped carry you through. And you guys didn't rest on your laurels when it came to menu innovation too, right? I mean, you guys, I know you came out with the chicken sandwich to really, and you didn't just come out with a chicken sandwich and say, here's our chicken sandwich. You guys came out really boldly with that and said, let the chicken wars continue. Here is Zaxby's product. Tell me about the menu innovation standpoint here and how you guys tried to lean into that piece of it through what was such a crisis in operations.
Well, we do consider ourselves the innovator of the chicken and probably the first to enter this segment. In the early days, Coca-Cola kind of coined it as a fast casual. And this is before casual really existed. It was either fast food or casual dining. So we're one of the first people on the block to do that. And so we continue to innovate and come up with great products and, put our stake in the ground and claim that we're all about great chicken, the best chicken fingers, the best chicken salads, the best chicken sandwiches. But in reality, we didn't have the best chicken sandwich. It was really inferior to our competitive set. And, when the chicken wars first began with this chicken sandwich, I was just looking at it, I can't believe that we're not competing. Our sales were really low on our primary chicken sandwich. And so I convinced the team, we need to get together. We need to completely rebuild this from the table up. And it was a new chicken block, a new piece of protein. It was a new bun. It was a new batter. It was a new marinade. So completely redesigned from the table up and something that would compete with everyone else. And of course, we're real biased. We think we have the best sandwich in the industry, and I would argue that we do. It's the best and the biggest, and it's an outstanding sandwich. And we are definitely now competing with everyone else, and we're holding our own very well.
All right, so chicken sandwich, incredible demand, great product. Drive-throughs helping you through, and clearly your culture is really helping you through too. You guys seem like one of the rare examples in the industry where perhaps you may have even emerged stronger from the pandemic. And I'm curious from your perspective, what you saw as some of the opportunities that came up for the Zaxby's business that maybe hadn't been there before the pandemic that you guys tried to really embrace in this season to set you up for success in the future.
Well, I think one thing we realized during this pandemic, we were seeing guests who had never been to a Zaxby's because there were limited opportunities and limited options. And so for the first time, you had people experiencing our brand, sitting in our drive-throughs for, long periods of time because demand was so great. And the other thing I noticed that people really were understanding and forgiving and patient. They understood, look, there's not a lot of options, and the places that are open are going to be really, really busy. So consumers really embrace that. And like I said, we got a lot of new faces. In addition to that, I think that starts to build, it kind of enforces the loyalty that was already there because they kept coming back to the brand. Average check was much higher. They were buying not just for themselves, but for a friend or a family. And like I said, we had new guests for the first time who got exposed to our brand. And I think now we've built new loyal fans that we didn't have before because of COVID.
There's been so much talk about digital innovation too, and I'm curious from that perspective. Talking about bringing in new customers, new fans. Of course, so much of the engagement with customers pre-pandemic, but particularly during the pandemic, has been really digitally oriented. How have you guys tried to lean into some of the digital innovations, digital tools that you had at your disposal, or that you have added since the pandemic started that have helped with that engagement with fans, new and old?
Well, this also revealed our weaknesses, in our areas that we need to improve on. And digital is certainly one of those. I would say we're a little behind on that. And so it showed us what we need to focus on. So we have a huge digital initiative we're undergoing right now. And a lot of that will implement year in or first quarter of next year. But it's really transformative. It is really going to change the way we serve our guests, interact with our guests, is going to change the way we have a loyalty program with the guests that we don't do very well now. We don't execute on that very well, but we know that's a weakness, and we know we're going to make it a strength. And we have a lot of initiatives underway to make that better and improve it and enhance it.
Now, I'm going to get into the expansion efforts you guys have coming up and the big news you had bringing on private equity for the first time. But I also am curious to talk about first, it's related to the experience for the customer, of course, which is Zaxby's has such beautiful restaurants. This is something where I've always admired the footprint, the interior, the exterior. I think you guys think very creatively about the footprint and the experience that people have in the restaurant, which of course we know has changed in the last year and a half in that the dine-in business has gone down, off premises has gone
Mm-hmm.
up. Um, you know, I guess thinking about some of the expansion that's coming up that we'll talk about here in a bit, how much does the on-premises piece of this still function into Zaxby's plans? How much can you guys innovate in the footprint? And how much do you want to innovate in the footprint going forward? How much of that, I guess, is still something you're wanting to invest in this digital age of off-premises everything?
Well, I think we have to create a new experience, and that will be done through digital. Because the only way to connect with the guests now predominantly will be digital going forward. We realize there will be a lot less foot traffic into our stores. Predominance of our sales will continue to be, third party. It'll be pickup. It'll be drive-through and delivery. So we have to create a new way to create sort of that atmosphere that you would get when you came to the store, because I think that's one thing that kind of set us apart all these years. It's not just about the food experience; it's about the overall dining experience. And coming into Zaxby's, I think certainly is like a casual dining experience when you come to Zaxby's. But I think as we move forward, like I said, there'll be less people coming into the stores, so we have to figure out a new way to create that same atmosphere, that ambiance, that feeling through the way we communicate and through our drive-throughs. And I think as we focus on that going forward, we're also going to be um, downscaling the size of our footprint and focus more on the exterior experience and not the interior experience. So we can convey some of that experience through what you see on the exterior of the building and not what you experience coming into the building.
Tell me about some of that, the exterior piece of this. I mean, is that primarily in drive-through innovation, or do you have some other things coming down the pike
It
you're
will
looking at?
be, I guess, more signage on the building, more messaging on the building, and a new way we're going to, I guess, sort of light up the exterior of our building, new colors. It's kind of a departure from where we are today, and it's almost a shocking departure in a way. People are going to say that's a Zaxby's. So,
Hmm.
but it's a smaller footprint, and we are working on a drive-through only, as an addition to just to some of our typical walk-in stores. We're also looking at downsizing our current store, uh, probably to about 40 seats versus 70 seats. So we're
Hmm.
making the footprint smaller, for our typical standalone, and we're also creating just a drive-through concept only.
I'm curious to get your impression of, yeah, we saw this especially late summer, early fall last year, but a lot of the major QSR players in particular started introducing these prototypes with, drive-through only, drive-in, really rethinking what a QSR fast casual restaurant I think can look like. You've been doing this for 30 years. You've looked at a lot of real estate, I'm sure, in your life. How is the real estate piece of this going to work out for all the brands that want to get creative in setting up these new prototypes? Is everybody going to be able to do that? Is it going to be hard to find the real estate that you want to make this work?
I think, well, one is, I think that the real estate size isn't going to change. You're going to need capacity for more traffic on your lot, not so much for parking spaces. So I think size is going to stay the same. And I do believe that, there's going to be a lot of competition because everybody wants to innovate. Everybody wants to have their own drive-through concept only. And so we're going to be competing against all the national brands for great real estate. And I think that will continue to be an issue for all of us because there's going to be so much competition.
Okay, this all leads up to, of course, the real big news here is you guys brought on Goldman Sachs as a private equity partner several months ago. This is the first time you guys have done this. I think this is incredible. I mean, 30 years that you built this business up to nearly 1,000 locations, nearly 2 billion in annual sales, and you did that as a founder-led organization. You're bringing in private equity now for the first time, and I'm sure this opens up so many doors for you guys. And I was just looking at the map of where you guys have a presence, and it is so really concentrated on the Southeast. There really is so much white space for Zaxby's that is available to you. So I assume that has to do with why you brought on Goldman Sachs as a partner. But tell me about the thought process, particularly for you, having built this business up for 30 years. What was behind that decision to bring them on as a partner?
Well, I had my former partner was, my friend and partner for 30 years. And he had gotten to the point in his life that he was looking for a way to exit to pursue other things in life. And so it was just an opportune time to bring in a very sophisticated partner, a very capable partner. I would call them world class. And it just happened to turn out that it was Goldman Sachs. And they have been, a great partner to us. They have been very additive. I think Goldman gets a really bad reputation for, just coming in and ripping the company apart. That hasn't been my experience. They have been, bringing us great advisors, great consultants, and really analyzed our business and looked at the things where they thought we had weaknesses and areas that we could shore up some. And we've certainly done that because of them. And I think as we move forward, it's really going to help us in our initiative to grow to become a national company and at some point international. They realize the value we have and they realize the opportunity we have. Like you mentioned, white space is tremendous. And I think our brand translates very well all across the country. I mean, look at what some of our competitors have done on the West Coast. So if they can do well there, we can do well there. So we're excited about this partnership, and they're really excited about helping us to grow and become that national brand we aspire to be.
It's really incredible to think that you guys are a significant player in the fast casual industry, top 50 restaurant company. You have done such incredible things over 30 years, and you've done that as a regional brand by and large. And so talking about that white space, I'm curious to hear from you what you think that effort will look like. How do you reach into these other parts of the country? What's the right way to approach communities that have maybe never even heard of Zaxby's before?
Well, it is very strategic, but as we continue to market and promote our brand. When we buy advertising in a DMA, that DMA really covers markets we don't currently exist in. So people are really seeing our messaging and seeing all of our advertisements, even though that might not be a store there. So when we go into some of these, and we continue to grow very contiguously, we just don't jump out all of a sudden to Washington State and put stores. That's not a good strategy for us. We'll continue to go contiguously and carrying that brand reputation with us. And a lot of our growth, a predominance of our growth is existing licensees are already in the brand. So they're known entities. We know how well they work. We know how they operate. And then, of course, we're still entertaining new licensees as well. But I would say some of the strength behind our growth is existing licensees going and carrying the brand into new markets because they have experience with it. They know what to do. And like I said, we are advertising before we go into new markets. So people are aware of the brand before we go there.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I mean, I'm in the Southeast too, and I got a Zaxby's 5 minutes from my house. Everybody here knows Zaxby's. It's a part of people's routines. And
Right.
when you go into new communities to introduce yourself, I'm wondering what opportunity there is to not reinvent the Zaxby's business, but are there ways that you need to prepare the business for these new customers? This smaller prototype being an example of it. Are you going to rethink the Zaxby's of the future before you make the effort into new communities to make sure you get that right the first time?
Yeah, I think that's part of the decision process we go through every day as we go in, especially into new, what we call a pioneering market. It's important to have a licensee though, who's not first time in the brand, someone who understands the brand. They have the net worth to do it, and they have the expertise on how to run a Zaxby's. Because sometimes opening a new market, you tend to struggle. You don't always open as well as you do in a core market. So it's important we carry existing licensees in these new growth markets. And in terms of thinking about how we introduce it, we're thinking about creative ways to really focused on social and digital media to kind of spread the word, because that's really the way you connect with people today. And a lot throughout, everybody's got one. Everybody got that computer in their pocket. So I think connecting that way is the way we kind of extend the brand and who we are, and people will be aware of us as we go into new markets.
The chicken competition is insane now, as I'm sure you're
It
well
is
familiar.
fierce. It is
Yeah,
fierce.
how do you break through the clutter, I guess? How do you ensure that Zaxby's becomes the chicken restaurant of choice for those customers in markets that they've never had it as an option?
I think we have to focus on what we do and what we do well. I mean, you have to be aware of your competition, but not afraid of your competition. And that's the way I look at it. And you have to focus on what you do. Well, you can't be what someone else is. You have to be true to yourself. I think as long as we do that, and the one thing that really sets us apart is we're all about our sauces and our marinades and the flavor that you can only get at Zaxby's. And no one's really replicated that. You can replicate chicken fingers, you can replicate a sandwich, but you can replicate the flavor that we have that's unique to us. And a big part of our menu mix is also our salad line. That's 20% of our menu mix, and that's a big draw for our brand. We're fortunate to have a demographic a lot of people don't have because of our salad line. And then we have those chicken lovers who love that unique Zaxby flavor you can only get from us. So I think it's focusing on what we really do well and just lean in on that and continue to do that, and not so much like to be aware of our competition, but don't make decisions based on our competition.
Mm. You mentioned how often with private equity coming into a company, often for a founder-led brand, that can mean that the founder exits or sits on the sideline, or that the leadership changes, and that's not been the case for you. You are still very much the leader of this company, and I'm curious how you feel like that role for you. How has it changed over the years, and how especially will it change now with Goldman Sachs as your partner?
Well, we'd had a lot of conversations about that. What did they think the future would be? And they made it really clear. Look, y'all know the business. We want you to continue to run the business. We're here to help where you need, and we're here to give you our advice, and we're here to offer advisors and consultants at your request. So uh, you've done a great job for 30 years. There's no reason why you can't continue to do a great job. We're here to uh, exclusively support you. Is what we're here for. And and we will be your biggest cheerleader. And like I said, we're here to help you grow this brand and achieve the goals. And of course, they want to do the same. We're very well aligned. That's what I would say about Goldman. Uh, we see we have a great future. We know there's opportunity for incredible growth, and not just geographically, but growing our top line sales. There's a huge opportunity for us. And I think some of the initiatives we're undergoing are really going to translate into more top line sales later this year and early next year because of this digital transformation we're going through.
For your sake too, just as a leader, I'm curious what the last year has taught you about leadership. You mentioned at the outset of this, sort of the culture being so important to Zaxby's and getting through the pandemic, and I have to imagine that includes in your leadership of the company and how that's affected you too. Just as a leader, how do you feel like your leadership has changed over the last year and a half?
Well, I think something I have learned over the years is, of course, we've all heard about this. Surround yourself with very intelligent people that really know what they're doing, and I think that's something I have really been focused on the last decade is bringing in world class people that really know what they're doing, and give them guidance, but get out of the way and let them do their jobs, and that's what I've done. So it really hasn't been that much of a transformation, really, from Goldman to now because I was already working in that direction. And, really just allowing people to do what they do and do it and do best and um, not keep them from doing what they know they can do. So,
Yeah, that's good. All right, so we you have the expansion coming up. The white space that we've been talking about is there for the taking for Zaxby's. There's so much opportunity. It seems you even mentioned international growth. Give me a preview of how this all unfolds. Assuming again that the worst of the pandemic is behind us, no barriers for Zaxby's going forward, and at least as it relates to COVID-19. What will the next year or two look like as you step on the accelerator?
well, for us, we have very planned, deliberate, methodical growth planned. We currently have 21 stores in our pipeline that will open between now and first quarter. We again are loading the pipeline with licensees and with new licensees, and we will probably do 50 to 75 stores in 22 as well, and then from there continue on. But like I said, the growth is contiguous. We're focused um, in growing into markets where we go in and evaluate the market on the front side, and then we go in and market the opportunity to local licensees and to our existing licensees. So predominantly, like I said, our growth will be with existing licensees for our brand.
Lots to be excited about for Zaxby's in the coming years ahead, and I'm
Tremendous.
excited to watch it. And good luck to you guys. Zach, thank you so much for taking some time to chat today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go. That was my interview with Zaxby's founder and CEO, Zach McLeroy. So, what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 5 takeaways. First, being efficient can be smarter than being fancy. In the past 18 months, I have seen some really outside the box renderings of futuristic restaurant prototypes. Some are really interesting and I think even functional, but some strike me as over the top and maybe a little too outside the box. As Zach discussed early in our conversation, sometimes it is not the bells and whistles that count, but it's the fundamentals, specifically speed, accuracy, and quality. While Zaxby's is redesigning its stores to account for the boom in off premises business, it's also really focusing on throughput and ensuring that it can get guests in and out very quickly and, of course, very accurately. Related to that is my second takeaway. In this new digital forward era, try to convey the interior experience of your restaurants on the exterior. If you haven't been to a Zaxby's before, it has a really striking and identifiable exterior design. It presents itself as sort of this farmhouse style restaurant with Southern charm. But as the company shrinks its footprint and focuses on the digital business, Zach shared that it's trying to communicate that same kind of charm, but on the exterior and in the drive-through lanes. And it's really leveraging signage, lighting, and more to do that. My third takeaway is this: be calculated and methodical in your growth. If you look at a map of where Zaxby's locations are, you'll see that it's heavily based in the southeast corner of the US. And as Zach discussed, Zaxby's followed a growth strategy that saw it move into contiguous states. And it really followed that concentric circles approach that you've probably heard so much about before. But also, it's pursued expansion into new markets very methodically, leveraging existing licensees and investing in media in markets where it doesn't even have stores yet, because it's really building that brand awareness and laying that groundwork for its growth. And now Zaxby's isn't just a really healthy brand, but it's also got this incredible white space ahead of it to grow into, and a really experienced team of licensees prepared to drive that growth. My fourth takeaway is that it is never too late to bring on an equity partner. You often hear about private equity in relation to emerging brands that have been around for a decade or so. Zaxby's, though, is 30 years old and it is a $2 billion business. But the time was clearly right to bring on Goldman Sachs as an equity partner, and that's going to unlock a totally new phase of growth for this brand. My last takeaway is this: go toe to toe with your competition, even if that requires big change. Zaxby's clearly operates in a very busy category, and there's a lot more attention on chicken now than ever before. But Zach shared that he was not scared of that competition. And in fact, he is prepared to do what it takes to fight in those chicken wars. And that includes totally rethinking Zaxby's signature chicken sandwich, which it rebuilt from the ground up in order to hold its own in the ever crowded chicken category. Those are all of my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and talk to you next week.